It's time for Real Talk with Brian and Dan, the weekly talk radio show dedicated to discussing important real estate topics, plus insight into the local community. With a combined experience of over 50 years as local real estate brokers from the East Side Real Estate team at Keller Williams Realty Bellevue. Here's your hosts, Brian Levitt and Dan Edwards.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Real Talk with Brian and Dan. It's Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. Thanks for joining us today. Now, do keep in mind, if you don't catch the entirety of this podcast, you can download it anywhere on podcasts are found. I found it on Spotify. I found it on Apple Podcasts. We've got a really great show lined up for you today. As always, we've got two fantastic guests, Katie Munoz from Moving Forward and Angel Barna with Venture Health and Life. Should be some great conversations. Of course, before we get to that, it's time for some real talk. All right, the housing market is in full swing. Inventory is up and interest rates are down, making this great for buyers. Brian, what do buyers need to know about this market?
You know, we've seen a big influx of inventory, so there's lots of choices right now. We're seeing pressure off. As a listing broker, I'm finding that I'm not necessarily getting the 10 or 11 offers on a listing I got, a few months back. Often I'm getting one good one, but it's a little more room for buyers to negotiate and a lot more choices for buyers. And right now, interest rates are down, so affordability is high. So that's the question I'm going to throw back at you. Tell me about affordability, Dan.
Yeah, so I was looking and doing some research about the common questions that we hear. It's like, I wouldn't say complaints, but observations, where buyers are out there saying, I know it may be a good time to buy, but gosh, things are just not super affordable. So I went to the NAR, National Association of Realtors, who compile a lot of cool statistics. And what they're showing out there is that our affordability right now is much higher than it was in the late 90s. So if you go back to late 90s, all the way up until 2006, our affordability right now is much better than it was then.
So what about when we had our down market, 2008, 9, 10?
So the interesting part about that is because we had so many foreclosures and short sales and distressed properties that, of course, and home values at that time for the first time in, 30 years, took a dive. Like, didn't just adjust, they took a dive. 10, 15, 20% depreciation from 2008, 2009 through 2011. So the interesting thing about that is whenever we talk about affordability, somebody says, well, that can't be. Home prices keep going up. So you familiar with what goes into that statistic, Brian?
No, please tell me.
All right. Well, I will tell you. That was a leading the witness,
minds want to know.
Okay. So the interesting part is it's not just home prices that go into that. If you think back, Brian, I know you can do this because you're older than I am. But, think back to where interest rates were, right? In 1998,
7% was a good rate.
Yeah, I was like super stoked to get a 7% interest rate. Well, today, and we'll talk during the mortgage moment with our with Michael Burdick to kind of see where rates are. But I do believe they've dipped below 4. So that's the price of money is not quite, but almost half of what it was then. Now, the other aspect of that is income. Mm-hmm. So income and where it sits from a standpoint of where and it's based on inflation as well. So, I mean, these are people that crunch numbers. It's not me. If you want to go back and look at the affordability index, I think you can find it in a couple of places, National Association of Realtors and also Calculated Risk. Yeah. That's a great website that talks about that kind of stuff. So,
something else I was thinking about in terms of affordability when we looked at that down market was the condition of the homes. Often was a ton of deferred maintenance. Yeah. So you might be able to buy it for less. Then you had to throw a ton of money in to bring it up to standard.
Right.
So I think, that's another factor that is often overlooked in terms of the relative affordability.
So that brings us back to our topic about buyers and what they need to know. So because inventory has gone up, and over the last 2 months, we don't have a full compilation of May's numbers, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say we listed 6 homes last week. So a lot of other people brought in homes after Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
So inventory is going to show a lot of options. Now get this, Brian. Even though that was the case, I still was in a competitive offer situation with my buyers last week.
Nice.
So not nice.
No,
I wanted for my buyers.
That's funny. I'm thinking on the listing side.
Yeah, you're thinking on the listing side. I know, right?
Listing brain.
No, this was, obviously for the seller, it was nice.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that buyers understand that still one of those influx where that home had sat on the market for about 30, 40 days.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
boom,
everybody got
two offers on it?
Yeah, they didn't even do a price adjustment at that point.
Yeah.
So the good news is our client won. So that's always
That's
good.
great.
Yeah.
Well, I got a contingency accepted, and in a market where most brokers are saying nobody will do those, we are.
Yeah.
And what that allows is this buyer to buy their new home before they've sold their old one. So they've eliminated the uncertainty of their move.
Yeah, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago
Right.
in one of our segments about how to get and structure that contingency. So, in conclusion, I really want to stress that I would say in the last 4 years, this is one of the best markets for buyers because
Right.
of the options in inventory and the low interest rates. Last year, the interest rates were not here.
Right.
So you may even have a reason if you're an owner to refinance.
Right. A lot of people are refinancing right now. We'll
Yeah.
talk to Michael about that in a little bit.
All right. So any other great real estate pieces of wisdom in the time we have left, Brian?
Well, I think about success stories.
Yeah.
I've got 2 listings on market right now. We're getting great traffic on those, but here's opportunities for buyers. I've got a townhouse in Issaquah, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 635, 3-car garage. A little unusual for a townhouse.
3-car?
3-car garage.
So 2-car tandem plus?
A tandem plus a workshop. So you've got
awesome.
really nice storage. And for a person that, say, wants to work on a car, you've got a space to do that.
So the part of Issaquah that's in, I think is important to point out. If you're not familiar with the Issaquah, or let's just say if you are, this is over in Peregrine Point?
Peregrine Point Townhomes.
I can never say that. Peregrine Point?
Peregrine. Like Peregrine Falcon.
It's basically almost Sammamish.
Right.
And it's in this little wedge. And I do believe, do you guys have a view or you're close to the lake?
Close to the lake. Close to I-90, and we're literally on the Sammamish-Issaquah border.
Yeah,
the Sammamish sign is across the street from.
That's right. Yeah,
that's right.
And if you like getting in the lake and stuff, the boat launch is about 5 minutes away.
Oh, it's 5 minutes. Yeah.
It's great. What's the asking price on that home?
$635. It's a bargain.
3-bedroom,
3-bedroom, 2.5 bath,
2.5 bath,
and really beautiful, really nice place.
Awesome.
So, success story, Dan.
Well, I told you a little bit about the folks on Friday that we got. The interesting part about this, and this goes back to Brian and where he remembers in real estate, but I presented to the seller in person. And that's unusual because nowadays, we do everything digitally. We digitally sign documents. We digitally send documents. We digitally send a text message. Sorry, you lost. You didn't win the offer bid. This was a phenomenal opportunity. I got to sit down in front of a seller and pitch my clients and their offer to the seller. And it really gave us an advantage. I heard back through the whole feedback loop that came from the seller to the seller's agent back to my client that I did a great job. So that's an honor for me to be in that spot. So a little unorthodox, a little old school, but the new guy got the old school stuff figured out. So.
That's great.
All right. So after the break, we're going to visit with Michael Burdick with Loan Depot. He's going to share kind of what's going on. I think we're going to talk about maybe if you need a little extra money at closing, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So we'll be right back after this break.